Group Problem Solving Procedures, Chapter 8. So, preview a systematic procedure as the basis for problem solving, capturing the problem in a problem solving, effective problem solving and decision making, applications of PMOPs. So, advantages and disadvantages of solving problems in groups versus individuals. Advantages: solutions for complex problems are usually superior. Groups have more resources. Members accept solutions more readily. Members understand the solution more completely. So you can see when it's basically multiple people can do more than one. Is what they're saying here. And in this case, they're doing stuff and it's working. Disadvantage: groups take more time. Sometimes people want to go off in different directions, whatever else. Can't stay on task. Now, participation may be uneven. That's usually the case where you have some people who are doing the work and some people are not. Interpersonal tension may interfere with critical thinking. So you may have some people, if you got a group of 10, you may have one or two or three people in there that don't get along. Disagreements about the task, how to go about doing something. You have disagreements, and this takes up time. A systematic procedure as the basis for problem solving. There are numerous ways to solve problems. How do we know a problem when we see one? Problem: the difference between what exists presently and what you expect or want. So when you look at it, a situation to say, how do we know when a problem when we see one? You look at something that you have right now and trying to figure out, well, what would you like to have? Where would you like to go with this? And so there is your problem. So, okay. So how do we fix this problem? How do we go about it? So every problem has three components: undesirable existing situation, desired situation to go, obstacles to change. So area of freedom, the amount of authority and limitations given to the group charged with solving the problem. So when you see these components, so basically you got something that you're not happy with, you want to try to make it better or whatever. And what slows you up from doing that? And that could be any number of things. And it's an infinite number of things that could be. But here's really important too, the area of freedom. How are you giving authority and limitations given to a group charged with solving problem? Basically, how much rope are they giving you? Allow you to go out there. I personally prefer, give me enough rope to hang myself, because realistically, I never will. And I would actually use that rope to do a lot of that freedom to get a lot of things done. And a lot of people who operate in that capacity, they feel the same way. Problems can be classified by their characteristics. Task difficulty: how complex is the issue or the problem? Solution multiplicity: are there many solutions? Intrinsic interest: are group members interested in solving? Member familiarity: has the group confronted a similar problem? Acceptance level: is solution acceptable to those impacted? And so when you look at this problem, are you dealing with something, man? How complex is it? Can you come up with multiple solutions for this? If it is, now, if you can, which one is the best one? Or, per the group, which one you decide to be the best? Are group members interested in solving? Some people, they say one thing, but they do something else. And and I'll give you an example. You have some people they're driven. Some people who are results driven, and some people who are process driven. They see things differently, and they do things differently. So it may not be that the fact they don't want to solve it, but you got to find it out. But you maybe find out they're just wired a little different. And have you had something like this before? And not only that, if you haven't had something like this before, do you know somebody who does? That's the next best thing. And is the solution acceptable to those impacted? Is this something that when we come up with a solution, is this something we say we all can sign our name to, say, you know what, I'm good with this. I put my name on it. Groups must understand the discussion question, which is the central question of the policy facing the group. Each member should be able to state what it is. These guidelines help phrase the discussion question. Avoid either or questions. Word questions are as concretely as possible. Avoid suggesting the answer in the question. So when you're looking at solving problem discussions with, what is your discussion question? What is it we're trying to do? Does everybody understand what it is? In other words, in the Army, we used to refer to this, everybody has to be on the same sheet of music. And if they are, then they understand that. And when you start asking questions and stuff, you got to look at either or. Well, it's either this way or that way. And many times it can be multiple ways. But if you do it only this way, that way, you leave out all the other possibilities. Questions should be concrete as possible. Bottom line is this: whatever it is you say, everybody should understand it because it's concrete. It's not something that we all got to read into. And definitely would suggesting the answer in a question. Realistically, what good does that do? Because you've already given somebody the answer to the issue at hand. Problem solving. Everything you need to do to move from present undesirable situation to what you want, including creating solutions and choosing among them. So when you look at it, your problem solving is everything that you know where you are. What do I have? What is it I'm trying to do? What is it basically? How is I'm trying to improve or fix? And how do I go about doing this? And being creative and leaving all the solutions out there to choose from the best. Decision making, choosing the available options. So when you go through that problem solving stuff and you come up with some options and stuff, now you got to make some decisions. Which ones are viable? Which ones are the best possible means to take? And ultimately, you try to whittle it down to which one is the absolute best. Effective problem solving and decision making. Communication helps or hinders group problem solving and decision making, and this is called functional theory. Effective problem solving depends on how all task requirements been met. How well have members used the communication to overcome obstacles to effective problem solving? How willing have members been to review the process and consider their decisions? So again, this is where you bring everybody together and we sit down. Did we do what we set out to do? Did we do what we set out to do? And, how do you use communication and, to overcome obstacles in the problem solving area? And how do you communicate? A lot of times, it might not be a situation where someone's telling being difficult, whatever else. It's just the communication process wasn't good. So there was a misunderstanding or a lack of communication. How willing are members to review the process and consider decisions? Basically, they have to be. If you're trying to come up with the best solution, at some point you've got to be willing to do that. The procedural model of problem solving, PMOPs, is a flexible framework to guide each phase of the problem solving process, describing and analyzing the problem. So when you describe and analyze a problem, now I can tell you what it is, and I can tell you what the depth and the scope to that problem. I can tell you. Generating and explaining possible solutions. Now, I'm kind of like giving a hypothesis, which is an educated guess, generating and explaining the possible solutions. Now, of course, all this stuff is going to have to be evaluating all those solutions. The next thing, but I can put them out there based upon my training and experience. Now we got to choose the best one. We got multiple, got to choose the best one. Now we have to implement it and make it. Choose it and then implement it and make it work. Step 1, describing and analyzing the problem. Understand the charge precisely. State the problem as a single question. Focus on the problem before solutions. Describe problem thoroughly. Make an outline and schedule based on PMOPs. Summarize the problem as a group. So when you see that right there, that step, this is the process you go through. And I will tell you, there will come a point in time when someone, usually somebody high ranking, will ask you, how did you all come up with this? And this is what they're asking right here. You would have to be able to tell them. They want to follow the logic. I see where you ended up. How did you get here? Focus groups can help in this process. An unstructured technique in which members freely explore thoughts and feelings about a topic. So I've been a part of a focus group before. And if you put the right, and I will tell you this can be a good thing or a bad thing. It's a good thing particularly if you got the right people. It can, I won't say a bad thing, but it cannot be so effective if you've got the wrong people. And one of the things with the focus groups and stuff, people have to leave their egos, check those at the door, and they got to truly believe in working as a team. And it can't be about me doing something, getting all the glory. It's got to be about, you know what, us collectively doing it. Step 2, generate and explain possible solutions. Focus on creativity, finding solutions. No criticism should be allowed in this step. So generate and explain the possible solutions. And when you do that, now focus on some of the ones that might be the most creative, or the ones that might be the best suited for what it is you're doing. And can't have criticism. It has to be, because see, a lot of times you get into the criticism, it gets personal. It's not really about what was said. Sometimes it can be about who said it. So I'm criticizing her. Step 3, evaluating all possible solutions. Establish criteria, which are statements that set standards and limits for comparing and evaluating. Here again, we're going back to our process, evaluating. Narrow a list of proposed solutions. If you got 10 of them, you got to narrow that down, probably to about 3 to 5. And then it'll be cut down again. Chart pros and cons. Always looking at the pros and cons. Pros and cons of actually us doing it. Pros and cons of not doing it. Pros and cons of doing it a certain way. Pros and cons of doing it, not doing it that way. And pros and cons of us not succeeding. Use technology to help group members problem solving. Bottom line is take advantage of the technology. A lot of times, and that's usually looking at research. You know, it could be somebody that came up with something very similar that you're working on, but they're in China. Well, the bottom line, it don't matter if they're in China. If they actually published something, or they wrote something, or they blogged about something, or they wrote a book, or they, put something on YouTube, that's a possibility for you to look at and find and say, hey, is this something that we can do? Group support systems, computer-based systems designed to improve various aspects of group work. Studies have shown group decision-making using computer support systems seems to be at least as good as traditional group decision-making. So this is technology. This is one of the ways to bring the technology in there. Computer-based systems designed to improve various aspects of it. So when you have that, and I will tell you this, what I've seen is sometimes you have people who've been in a career for a long period of time, and they're kind of stuck in their ways. They may not be so ready to accept new technology. This is where actually having a diverse group and having some younger people in the group who may be more familiar with that type of stuff or more willing and receptive to it is actually beneficial. Step 4, choosing the best solution. A group can make a decision in many different ways. Decision by the leader, consultative method, voting. Consensus, a decision all members agree that the best way that they can support, but isn't necessarily everyone's first choice. The risk technique is used to help groups assess potential problems or risks without a solution. So when we go back to this choosing the best solution up here, and coming down to that consensus. So you look at it, and when you're thinking about this, choosing the best solution, how it can be gone about. What I've seen a lot of times working in groups, it's always something that's discussed. Rarely is it a decision that's made by the leader. It's usually some type of consultative method. And I've seen it also too sometimes say, well, you know what, by show of hands, who would like to do this way? And you're just like, you know what, but everybody must agree that, hey, whatever the vote is what we would go with. You got to, and here's your consensus. Decision by all members to agree that the best they can all support, but isn't necessarily everyone's first choice. So there you go. Risk technique is used to help groups assess potential problems or risks with a solution. So if there's still some risk associated with, you're going to want to know. One of the reasons you're going to know, because you will have to articulate that to management, stakeholders, whoever they may be. So effective problem solving and decision making. So step 5, implementing the chosen solution. Who will do that? When? How so that the decision is enacted? How will we write and present our report? How will we word our motion to the meeting, membership meeting? What follow-up should we conduct? So when you think about you have this, one of the things you'll have to do is you will have to brief people about it. And that's what this is right here. You'll have to sit down and tell them, okay, this is what, for the last few months, what we've been working on, here it is. Here's our report. Here's our findings. Here's what we plan to do. Here's how we're going to go about doing it. And when you do that in those meetings, now this is where stakeholders, management and stakeholders are going to be asking questions, whatever else. And I will tell you, a lot of times when I've had to do things like that, that was usually like a PowerPoint presentation to educate everybody what was going on and stuff, and also entertain the questions, but also have all members of the group there in case a question was asked that I couldn't answer, one of the group members could. The PERT, program evaluation and a review technique that helps groups members manage and keep track of a complex task. So when you have a complex task, it's got a lot of moving parts. I realized first, there's a lot of white noise going on and stuff. This is something that can help you stay on top of that. One of the things that I can actually recall from my experience when, let's just say that I didn't do the best when I first started my career, I wasn't really organized and stuff. And I had a lot of things going on. So I had to come up with a system. And that's what this is right here. Something that can help you stay on top of the complex tasks and all the things that's moving around. That concludes this chapter.